Today, you are going to build an AI chat application, build and deploy an AI chat application using Next.js and a tool called Cohere. And that is just an API for building this application. And by the end of this, you will be able to build just this, in which we're going to be able to ask a question: what is the meaning of life? And as you can see, I'm not running this at localhost. I have deployed this application using Vercel. We're going to do this as well. And then I'm just going to click send. And then after clicking send, it's going to take just a second to kind of start loading this response here. But once it does, it is going to stream a text response back to us. And as you can see here, the question is complex, no single answer, blah, blah, blah. It's going to kind of give us an answer to this question. But we can ask several questions to it, to where, what is the first programming language I should learn? And then I'm going to click send, and you're going to see it start to generate the response for this answer as well. So we're going to build this chat application and deploy it. Now, I think this is going to be super approachable for you. You're going to see how easy this actually is, and it's going to be really cool for you. And we're going to use, like I said, this tool called Cohere, and I'm going to link this cohere.com in the description below, but I'm going to take you how to connect Cohere to Next.js and create this application. I think this would be a great idea for integrating into current projects, or else like this is just a cool standalone project to create. So I will have this linked, my GitHub repository of the final project linked in the description. I will also link my final website that I have created here. Then I'll also try to link Cohere in the description. If any of that isn't in there, let me know and I will get that linked. But without further ado, let's build this project. So the first thing that we're going to do here is create a template Next.js application. So we're just going to start this from scratch. So I'm going to do npx create next app at latest. And I'm running this in a terminal within VS Code. And then for the prompts it's going to give me, I'm going to call this AI chat. We're not going to use TypeScript. We're not going to use ESLint. We are going to use Tailwind CSS. We're not going to use the SRC directory. We are going to use the app router. We are not going to customize the default import alias. So now that this is created here within VS Code, I'm going to do file, open, and then open this project. So now that we have this brand new open project here, the first thing that we're going to do is within the root directory, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a file here and make sure that this file is outside of your app folder. This should be within your root directory. So on the same level as your git ignore, JSON config, next.config.js, so on and so forth. And what this is going to be is a .env.local file. And we're going to add an environment variable here for our Cohere API key. So this is going to be Cohere underscore API underscore key. And where we're going to get this is we're going to go back to my web browser here, and I'm going to go to my dashboard within Cohere. So I have gone to Cohere here and I've created a new account. This is totally free to do. So if you go to cohere.com and then you create an account and then you click on dashboard, you should see a section over here that says API keys. All right. And I will try to link Cohere in the description below. If that's not linked, let me know in a comment and I'll make sure to link it. But create a free account, then go to dashboard, API keys, and you should have a free trial API key down below. And then all we're going to do here is I'm going to click this eye icon so I can see it. And then I'm going to copy this API key. So I just copied this key here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to head back here and I'm going to paste it right here within my .env.local file. So I pasted it in there and then I just closed the file. I'm not going to show you the API key for, security reasons, but we should now have that Cohere API key within this .env.local file. But now that we have this within our app directory here, what we're going to do is create a new folder. And this folder is going to be called API/project completion because we're going to use the text completion API here, API/completion. And then within the completion folder, I'm going to create a new file, and this is going to be a route.js file. And then within this route.js file, we're going to have to do a few things. But before we do those things, we need to install another package. And this is going to be an AI package from Vercel. So from the same company that created Next.js, they have this AI package that allows you to easily integrate some of these AI applications into your Next.js apps or your Vercel applications. So we're going to do npm install AI. And yeah, they have clearly knocked it out of the park with the name of their library, with having the AI library. But now we're going to come back here, and within this route.js file, there's a couple of things that we need to import from this AI package that we just installed. And we're going to import empty curly braces for now from AI. But now, since I just have from AI, I can have some nice text completion here. So I'm going to do streaming text response, and you're going to see how this works in a sec. It's actually really cool. At least I think it's cool. And then we're going to import cohere stream. And I could totally be pronouncing this wrong, but forgive me if I am. And then now what we're going to do here is we're going to make this an edge runtime. This needs to be an edge runtime for this to work correctly, because these kind of helper functions are going to work on the edge. So we're going to export const runtime is equal to edge, which makes this route handler run on the edge. So we're making this runtime run on the edge just for this specific route, since we are exporting it from this file. And then we're going to create our route handler for a post request. So we're going to export an async function post. And this is going to take a request. I'm going to just call it REQ for short. From this request, we're going to get a prompt from the user. So the user is going to type in a question, and we're going to capture this request within this route handler and get the prompt from this request. So we're going to say const prompt is equal to request. And then from here, we need to create the body that we're going to send to our cohere API. So we're going to say const body is equal to JSON.stringify, because we need, since we're sending this network request, we need to send it as JSON. But we're going to first set our prompt property is equal to our prompt. So using JavaScript shorthand notation, we can just say prompt. But this is setting the prompt property to whatever our request prompt is. And then we need to set a model. And for this, it's going to be command-nightly. So this is the model that we're going to use for this AI prompt. And then we're going to set a max tokens. I'm going to just set that to 300. And then we're going to set stop sequences. And that's going to be an empty array. Then we're going to set a temperature, and that is going to be 0.9. And you can look at the Cohere docs to see more details about what all this stuff does. But this basically configures the type of responses that we're going to get. And then we're going to get return underscore likelihoods is going to be none. So all capital letters, none, the string none. And then we are going to stream this. So we are going to set stream to true. Okay. So prompt is prompt. Model is command nightly. Max tokens of 300. Stop sequences is an empty array. Temperature. And yes, I did spell temperature correctly. That is going to be 0.9. And then return likelihoods is going to be none. Stream is true. And now we need to make the request to the Cohere API. So I'm going to do const response is equal to await fetch And then this is going to be a Cohere endpoint. So this is going to be https://api.cohere.ai/v1/generate. Now this is going to be a post request. So as a second argument to our fetch function, we need to pass in an object in which the method is going to be post. The headers are going to include our content type, which is going to be application/JSON. And then we are also going to add an authorization token. So this is going to be our Cohere API key. So we're going to do authorization, and then this is going to be backticks. It's going to be bearer. It's going to be a authorization bearer token, $, curly brace, and this is going to be process.env.cohere_API_key. So this is the API key that we just added to our env file a little bit ago. And then we're going to add our body is equal to the body that we created above. And then we will first check for any errors. So if not response.OK, if they don't return a positive response from Cohere, then I want to return a new response, and that's going to wait response.text. And then we're going to pass in a status is response.status. So we're handling a request that doesn't go so great. But then after that, if that isn't the case, it's a successful response. We want to say const stream is equal to Cohere stream, and then pass in our response. And then we want to return a new streaming text response, and then pass in our stream to that. All right, so we're going to make a post request to API/completion, our backend route handler here within our Next.js application. And then we are going to generate a body using that prompt. We're going to make a post request to the Cohere API endpoint. If it is not a successful request, we are going to check for that and return a response that includes a status code as well as the response text. So whatever they return as the failed response. But if that is not the case, if it is successful, we're going to create a new stream using the response from this Cohere endpoint. And then we're going to return the streaming text response. And then from there, we honestly just need to wire up the user interface to make this request to our API endpoint. So this might have felt like a lot here, but honestly, with 30 lines of code, we almost have everything set up. So now let's go to our page.js file here, and we're just going to write some UI here. Now, this is going to be a client component, and currently it has a lot of just template code that we are going to remove here as well. But for now, let's do use client here at the top. So use client, and we're also going to import from AI/React. And what we're going to import is called use completion. So this is from the Vercel AI tool. And then at the top of this function, we're going to say const empty curly braces is equal to use completion. And then we're going to pass in an object in which the API property is set to our /API/completion. So when we use this use completion hook from AI/React, we need to set the AI property that we pass in for this use completion hook to our route handler that we used here. So API/completion. And then what we need to do is we need to have completion as well as input as well as stop, as well as is loading, as well as handle input change, as well as handle submit from this use completion hook. Because we're going to use all those to wire up our user interface, because we need to know if it's loading. We need to have an input from this so we can pass that to this AI tool. We need to handle the submit and all these different things. And then here, I'm going to actually remove everything within this return statement here. So now it's just an empty return. And then what we're going to do here, I'm not going to style it yet. We're going to use ChatGPT to style this, but right now, let's just kind of set up our UI, and this shouldn't take us too long here. So let's just add a wrapper div here, and I'm going to make this a JSX file so I get better code completion. So JSX, but here, let's do a wrapper div, and then we're going to do a form in which our on submit is going to equal the handle submit that we get from the use completion hook. And then within the form, we're going to add an input, and this input is going to be of type text. And then we're also going to say the value is equal to the input returned from the use completion hook. And then on change, that's going to be the handle input change from the use completion hook. And then let's also add a placeholder, and I'm going to say ask a question. And then let's also put this input on multiple lines here, like so. And then below this input, let's also do a button that says stop. And then the on click, we're going to pass the stop function from the use completion hook. This will effectively stop the AI tool from generating its response. So like we're going to see it generating a response. This is going to allow the user to click stop and stop that. And then we're going to add another button, and this is going to be send. And this is going to be send a question to our AI tool. And we're going to set the type of this button is going to be submit. So this is going to call our form handle submit function. And then we're also going to make this disabled if it is in an is loading state that we get from our use completion hook. And then let's also, instead of just saying send here, let's say is loading question mark. Then we're going to say loading ... Else we're just going to say send. So if we've sent a question and it's loading, we're not going to give them a chance to send. We're just going to say loading, and we're going to make sure this is disabled. And then we're going to have the end of our form here, but then we're going to use an output tag. And within this, we're going to say AI result. And then that is just going to be completion. So let's actually now run this application, npm run dev. And I'm going to open this up at localhost 3000. So I'm going to refresh this page, and then we see ask a question, stop, send, and AI result. But this looks ugly right now. So I'm going to head over to GPT here. I'm going to use GPT-4, but it should work just fine in GPT 3.5. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close my terminal. But I'm going to copy this whole return statement here, and I'm going to paste it into GPT-4, and I'm going to say, style this using Tailwind CSS within my React application. Make it look like a futuristic AI tool. And then I'm going to paste in my containing div. And it's going to give me some information here. And it's going to add these different styles to my inputs as well as my buttons. And then we're just going to copy and paste this in. But I'm going to first check and make sure that it is still the correct logic. So the form has a handle submit. The input has handle input change. It has an input, ask a question, button, on click is stop. This one is loading, disables it, type submit. It has the correct logic here still. And then it has our result. So it looks like it kept all of our logic here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this div. And let me actually just click copy code here. Let's head back. And then I'm going to paste that within my return statement. So we just added all these Tailwind classes. And now if I come back to my application, we should see something that is styled much better. But I don't quite like this. I actually want it to take up the full page here. So I think if I do H screen here, that it should take up my full page. And I think that this looks pretty good for our purposes here. So let's go ahead and maybe I'll actually give this a div, put my output within a div, and I think I want to add maybe just a little bit of margin. So I think that's like M3. And yeah, it adds a little bit of margin here for our result. And now that I look at the buttons, I actually want to do the same thing. So my buttons are wrapped in this div here. So let's add just maybe like a little bit of padding around them. So P3 on the container div around my buttons here. And yeah, that spaces things out a little bit better. I actually don't think I need this margin anymore, nor do I need the containing div. So yeah, I think this looks fine for our purposes here. Now let's go ahead and theoretically, I should be able to ask it a question and we should see the result here. So I'm going to say, why is the sky blue? And then let's send that question here. And then I do not see a response here. So let's go ahead and I'm sure I messed something like easy. I'm going to send it again. And if I look at my network tab, I see invalid request prompt must be at least one token long. So something's going on here in which when I click submit for this, it is not doing what we want it to do. So I'm calling handle submit here. And then let's go to this route here. And let me just console.log my prompt as well as my request. So let's come back. Let's clear. Let's send it again. And then within my console here, I see I consoled those out. And I should see my prompt is actually undefined here, which is definitely not what we want here. And I think the error that I made is I'm just accessing my request here and I'm not actually converting it to JSON. And I also need to make sure I await this request.json because we send the request from our front end in JSON format and I need to make sure to convert that here. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to clear this and I'm going to send it again. And we see it is now loading and it does indeed start generating our response here, which is actually really cool to see. So we see it's still loading, so I can't ask it another question. And it's still kind of generating this response out. And hey, that's pretty cool. Okay, so why is the sky blue? What is the meaning of life? Like, really? And then I'll send that. And then it should start generating a new response. So it's loading the response here. Well, the meaning of life is a complex and philosophical question that has been explored by humans for centuries, blah, blah, blah. You get the picture. And then let me send it again, but let me stop it to make sure that feature works. So send, and then you do and see, deed C, it cancels the request here. So let me close the console there, and then let's maybe ask it one more question. What's the best programming language to learn? And then let's send that. And then it gives me some sort of answer here. And then you can see this is actually pretty neat here. Like with very little lines of code, we just built this chat application here. And I think that this would be great to implement within like an overall application. Is this, a standalone application itself? Probably not, but this would be a cool feature to have in one of your applications. Like if you're building a project, you could build this into like a pop-up modal or something like, hey, ask our chatbot some general questions, which is kind of pretty cool. Now, since we have this in place, let's go ahead and deploy this now. But before we do that, we need to create a GitHub project here because we're going to deploy using Vercel. So I'm going to go to github.com. So I'm here at my GitHub, just at my dashboard here. If you don't have a GitHub, I would create an account. I'm going to do create new and new repository. I'm going to call this AI chat. And then I'm going to click create repository here. And then I'm going to copy this git remote add origin and then this URL. I'm going to come back to VS Code and then I'm going to do, and let's remove that console.log. And then let's scroll down here. I'm going to add a new terminal here. I'm going to do git add, git commit -m, add project, spelling project incorrectly. And then I'm going to do git remote add origin. I'm going to do git push. That's going to fail. And I'm going to do git push set upstream origin main. And then that should push it to GitHub. And if I refresh my GitHub here, I now see our application here. But now to deploy this application, let's go to vercel.com. So I'm going to Vercel here and I'm going to continue with GitHub. I already have connected this. You might still need to do this, but I'm going to do continue with GitHub. And it's automatically going to authenticate me, but you might need to go to like connect to GitHub and do that. If you don't know how to do that, I would just say go to connect to Vercel to GitHub. It is super easy to do and it will definitely walk you through it. But now I'm at my Vercel dashboard. This is completely free to do. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click add new. And I'm going to do project. And then I'm going to import a Git repository. And what I'm going to import is my AI chat. You might need to connect this to your GitHub here, but like I said, it's super easy to do. But I'm going to do import, and then all this looks good, but we do need to add an environment variable here. And this is going to be our Cohere API key. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to go to my env folder here, and I'm going to click this folder and I'm going to copy the name of my key. And then I'm going to paste my key in here. So Cohere API key, and I'm going to go get the value and I'm going to paste it right here. And then after pasting my key, I pasted it right above and then I clicked add. Okay. I'm not showing it you right now, but I pasted my key in there and then I clicked add. And then now that I've done that, I'm going to click deploy. So now it says it started the deployment, and I'm just going to give this a second to deploy our application. And then after this deploys, we should see, congratulations, you just deployed a new project to Vercel. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on this project here. And you see it gives us a URL here. It is going to be .vercel.app unless you want to add your own custom domain. I'm not, for the purpose of this, like this is completely free. So I'm just going to use this. And then if I ask it a question, what is the meaning of life, and click send, we should still see it load our answer here for just a second. And then we should see our AI result start to generate here, which we do indeed see. There's no single answer to this question. It can vary, blah, 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 and then it continues to generate our answer. So you have successfully used Next.js to build an AI chat application as well as deploy it with Vercel in the matter of like 30 minutes. So thanks for tuning into this. I hope you learned a lot from this project. I think that this would be a cool kind of feature to have in other applications. So hopefully you learned a lot and saw how like approachable adding something like this to your application is. So Thanks for tuning into this, and I will see you in that next one.